Friends, I you want to watch super hit movie Legally Blonde in English? Then you must like this video if you are visiting our channel for the first time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Friends, in today's video. The movie we're going to talk about is called Legally Blonde. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch. To all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video, I'm going to tell you. I'm also going to give you all the information on which platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film. And I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film storyline, star cast actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you, friends, to watch this video till the ends. So let's start the video. Legally Blonde is a 2001 American comedy film directed by Robert Luketic and written by Karen McCullough Lutz and Kirsten Smith, based on Amanda Brown's novel. It stars Reese Witherspoon, Luke Wilson, Selma Blair, Matthew Davis, Victor Garber, and Jennifer Coolidge. The story follows Elle Witherspoon, a sorority girl who attempts to win back her ex-boyfriend, Warner Huntington III Davis, by getting a Juris Doctor degree at Harvard Law School, and in the process, overcomes stereotypes against blondes and triumphs as a successful lawyer. The outline of Legally Blonde originated from Brown's experiences as a blonde going to Stanford Law School while being obsessed with fashion and beauty, reading Elle magazine, and frequently clashing with the personalities of her peers. In 2000, Brown met producer Mark Platt, who helped her develop her manuscript into a novel. Platt brought in screenwriters McCullough Lutz and Smith to adapt the book into a motion picture. The project caught the attention of Luketic, an Australian director new to Hollywood. The film was released on July 13, 2001, and was a hit with audiences, grossing $142 million worldwide on an $18 million budget, as well as receiving positive reviews from critics, with praise for Witherspoon's performance in particular. It was nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Witherspoon received a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress, Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and the 2002 MTV Movie Award for Best Female Performance. The box office success led to a series of films: a 2003 sequel, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, a 2009 direct-to-DVD spin-off, Legally Blondes, and in 2007, Legally Blonde, the musical. In May 2020, it was announced that Mindy Kaling and Dan Gore were signed to write a third film. The third film was set to release in 2022, but has been delayed to an undisclosed date. An upcoming Amazon Prime Video prequel series about Woods' high school years, Elle, is being developed by Witherspoon. Plot: CULA redirects here. For other uses, see CULA disambiguation. California University of Los Angeles redirects here. Not to be confused with University of California, Los Angeles, or California State University, Los Angeles. California University of Los Angeles sorority president Elle Woods is taken to a local restaurant by her boyfriend, Warner Huntington III. She expects a proposal, but he breaks up with her instead. Intending to become a successful senator, he believes Elle is not serious enough for that life. Elle assumes she can win Warner back if she shows herself capable of achieving the same things. After months of studying, Elle scores a 179 on the law school admission test and, combined with her 4.0 GPA, is accepted to Harvard Law School, which Warner also plans on attending. During the first semester, Elle discovers that her personality completely contrasts her distrusting East Coast classmates. Elle learns of Warner's engagement to his previous girlfriend, Vivian Kensington, and befriends local manicurist Paulette Bonafante. Later, as Elle tells Warner she intends to apply for one of her professor's internships, he says she is not smart enough. Realizing that Warner will neither take her back nor take her seriously, Elle decides to improve herself by demonstrating her understanding of the subject. The following semester, Harvard's most respected teacher, Aaron Callahan, hires some first-year interns, including Elle, Warner, and Vivian, to participate in a high-profile case involving prominent fitness instructor Brooke Wyndham, one of Elle's role models. Accused of murdering her husband, Brooke is unwilling to produce her alibi, and she later reveals to Elle she was secretly having liposuction during the murder, which Elle promises not to disclose. Vivian later gains a new respect for Elle and reveals that Warner's father helped him get in. Emmett Richmond, Callahan's junior partner, discovers Elle's potential. One night, Callahan attempts to seduce Elle, who assumes that is why she became an intern. She briefly quits in devastation and tells Emmett what happened. After learning of Callahan's behavior, Brooke replaces him with Elle under Emmett's guidance, as law students may represent clients if they do so under the supervision of a licensed attorney. While cross-examining Brooke's stepdaughter, Chutney, Elle eventually discovers a significant inconsistency in her story. Chutney testified she was home during her father's murder, but did not hear the gunshot because she was in the shower after getting her hair permed that morning. Elle says washing permed hair within the first 24 hours would deactivate the ammonium thioglycolate, pointing out Chutney's curls are still intact. Chutney admits her dislike towards having a stepmother her age, and in an attempt to kill Brooke, accidentally shot her father. After the trial, Chutney is detained, Brooke is exonerated, and the media hail Elle. Warner asks Elle to take him back since she has proven herself, but she rejects him, realizing he is shallow and a complete bonehead. However, she and Vivian become best friends, especially after Vivian dumps Warner. Elle gives the graduation speech 2 years later, while Warner graduates with no honors, job offers, or girlfriend. Emmett has started his law firm, with plans to propose to Elle later that night. Cast: Reese Witherspoon as Elle Woods, Luke Wilson as Emmett Richmond, Selma Blair as Vivian Kensington, Matthew Davis as Warner Huntington III, a Harvard student from 5 generations of senators, Victor Garber as Professor Aaron Callahan, Jennifer Coolidge as Paulette Boniface, Holland Taylor as Professor Elspeth Stromwell, Ali Larder as Brooke Taylor Wyndham, Jessica Caulfield as Margot Chapman, Alana Ubach as Serena Maguire, Oz Perkins as David Kidney, Linda Cardellini as Chutney Wyndham, Bruce Thomas as UPS Guy, Meredith Scott Lynn as Enid Wexler, Raquel Welch as Mrs. Wyndham Vandermark, Francesca P. Roberts as Judge Marina R. Bickford, Wayne Fetterman as Harvard Admissions Counselor, Kimberly McCullough as Amy, Greg Serrano as Enrique Salvatore, Alice Beasley as Cula Advisor, Moondoggy as Bruiser Woods Reception. Box office: Legally Blonde was released on July 13, 2001 in North America. Its opening weekend gross of $20 million made it a sleeper hit for the struggling MGM studio, and it went on to gross $96.5 million in North America and $45.2 million elsewhere, for a worldwide total of $142 million. The film was released in the United Kingdom on October 26, 2001, and opened on number 2 behind American Pie 2 Musical. Main article: Legally Blonde Musical. In April 2007, a musical adaptation premiered on Broadway to mixed reviews, starring Laura Bell Bundy as Elle, Christian Borle as Emmett, Orphe as Paulette, Nikki Snelson as Brooke, Richard H. Blake as Warner, Kate Schindel as Vivian, and Michael Rupert as Callahan, running until October 19, 2008. The show, Bundy, Borle, and Orpha were all nominated for Tony Awards. Later, the Broadway show was the focus of an MTV reality TV series called Legally Blonde, the Musical, The Search for Elle Woods, in which the winner would take over the role of Elle on Broadway. Bailey Hanks from Anderson, South Carolina, won the competition. Legally Blonde also had a 3-year run at the Savoy Theatre in London's West End, starring Sheridan Smith, Susan McFadden, and Carly Stenson as Elle, and Duncan James, Richard Fleischman, Simon Thomas, and Ben Freeman as Warner. During its run, the cast also included Alex Gauman, Denise Van Outen, and Lee Mead. Legally Blonde is a featherweight comedy balanced between silliness and charm. It is impossible to dislike, although how much you like it may depend on your affection for Reese Witherspoon. She is so much the star of the movie that the other actors seem less like co-stars than like partners in an acting workshop, feeding her lines. They percolate, she bubbles. Witherspoon plays Elle Woods, named perhaps for the magazine, perhaps because the word means she in French. Work on that pun a little more, and you could name the movie The Vengeance of Elle, since Elle gets her revenge on the stuck-up snob who dumps her, and thus inspires a brilliant legal career. We meet Elle as she basks in general approval as president of the Delta Nu House on a Los Angeles campus. She moves in a cloud of pink, dispensing advice on grooming, hair care, and accessorizing. She has a perfect grade point average in her major, which is fashion. She thinks Warner Huntington III, Matthew Davis, plans to propose to her, but actually he wants to break up. He plans to be a senator by the time he's 30, he explains, and for that career path, I need to marry a Jackie, not a Marilyn. Outraged, Elle determines to follow Warner to Harvard Law School and shame him with her brilliance. And so she does, more or less, after being taken on as an intern by the famous Professor Callahan, Victor Garber, and assigned to help him in the case of a famous weight loss consultant, Allie Larder, accused of murdering her much older husband. The defense hinges on such matters as whether a Delta Nu would sleep with a man who wears a thong and the chemistry of perms. Witherspoon effortlessly animated this material with sunshine and quick wit. Despite the title and the implications in the ads, this is a movie about smart blondes, not dumb ones, and she is, I think, using her encyclopedic knowledge of fashion and grooming to disguise her penetrating intelligence. On the other hand, maybe not. Maybe it's just second nature for her to win a client's confidence by visiting her in prison with Calvin Klein sheets, Clinique skincare products, and the latest issue of Cosmo. I smiled a lot during the movie, laughed a few times, was amused by the logic of the court case. Legally Blonde is not a great movie. Not comparable with Clueless, which it obviously wants to remind us of, or Witherspoon's Own Wonderful Election. But Witherspoon is a star, and the movie doesn't overstay its welcome. It also contains at least one line I predict will enter the repertory. Elle Woods is asked, "A spa? Isn't that kind of like your mothership?" Review. Legally Blonde. It's no fault of Reese Witherspoon's that she gave such a terrific starring performance in one of the most brilliant satires of modern times, Election, the animal farm of American sexual politics. The problem is that anything she does that even vaguely looks like that is going to seem lame. This so-so comedy has Witherspoon as the dippy yet smart sorority girl whose ambitious WASP boyfriend dumps her because she's a natural blonde and he's looking to marry Jackie, not Marilyn. So she gets a place in his class at Harvard Law School to win him back. This recycles an awful lot of Alicia Silverstone's Clueless, right down to the mall treats, the fashion victim hysteria, and shyly helping a love interest/older brother type with legal depositions. It has the bunny girl joke from Bridget Jones's Diary. And of course, there are the election echoes, watered down. Witherspoon is such a fiercely bright screen presence with a kind of Colgate ring of overconfidence. She needs a savvy director with firm fingers on the brightness and contrast dials. Sadly, Robert Luketic isn't the man. The Blonde Anti-Defamation League has found its standard bearer in Legally Blonde, a comedy that argues that towheads not only have more fun, but can be just as smart as anyone else if they feel like it. This style-conscious romp with one or two ideas in its well-manicured head gets a major boost from Reese Witherspoon's dazzling star turn as an LA. Barbie, who, for the wrong reasons, sets out to conquer Harvard Law School. But the mildly engaging silliness of its premise is never transformed into something more substantial, and the attempt at a fine-tuned, Clueless-like tone is only sputteringly achieved. Still, the imagination-catching premise and inevitable raves for the leading lady should put this somewhere in the middle of summer BO performers. Beaming star wattage out of every pore, not to mention her hair, Witherspoon once again proves herself a comedienne worthy of comparison to such golden-era greats as Carole Lombard and Ginger Rogers. Seemingly at the center of every frame of the picture, the actress possesses an effervescence that floods everyone and everything in its proximity, and here dignifies and elevates material that proves more appealing conceptually than it generally manages to be in the playing. Like her character, who will let nothing, least of all her own limitations, stand in her way, Witherspoon isn't about to let spotty dialogue and some directorial clumsiness prevent her from showing what she's made of. Perfectly groomed, Color coordinated to the max in varying shades of pink and usually seen in the company of her chihuahua, Witherspoon's Elle Woods rules the sorority roost on the Cula campus. She may be a ditz, but no one can say that this knockout, who's proud to mention that she grew up across the street from Aaron Spelling's house, isn't happy or hasn't made the most of her life thus far. Grad school definitely isn't in the cards for this fashion merchandising major, but her expectation of becoming the bejeweled wife of preppy BF Warner, Matthew Davis, are dashed when the political aspirant breaks up with her. If I'm going to be a senator, I need to marry a Jackie, not a Marilyn, he explains to the flabbergasted Elle. After a good sulk, Elle decides that the only way to win Warner back is to prove herself worthy by getting into Harvard Law herself and following him there in the fall. Acing her exams and benefiting from the prospect of the diversity she will inject into the refined atmosphere of Cambridge, Elle arrives in her Porsche, followed by a moving van, and immediately becomes the unwitting clown in a class full of serious, snooty, and often pretentious future American elite. Dressed to the nines and armed with a pink fur-covered cell phone, she's ridiculed by her imposing professors, but this is nothing compared to her humiliation upon learning that Warner has gotten back together with a former steady Vivian, Selma Blair, a nose-in-the-air blue blood who cruelly misinforms Elle that an upcoming class bash is a costume party. Elle shows up in a Playboy bunny outfit. Finding herself a social outcast for the first time in her life, Elle just about throws in the towel, but shortly decides to get serious instead. She begins turning the corner in class, befriends a lower-class manicurist, Jennifer Coolidge, whom she tries to help with her love life, and is surprisingly picked by one of her teachers, Professor Callahan, Victor Garber, to become part of the team of interns on a high-profile murder case. Since the discovery and trial process is obviously designed to provide the platform for Elle to transform herself from bimbo to prospective professional, the picture necessarily becomes more sober-sided in the final act. But the means by which Elle triumphs remain entirely tied to her SoCal preoccupation with looks and fashion, and are therefore far too coincidental and flimsy to prove anything about her real abilities. A little postscript pushes things even further into fairy tale absurdity, although it must be acknowledged that everything that Elle does and accomplishes remains entirely in character. This girl will not be denied. Based on a book by Amanda Brown, script by Karen McCullough Lutz and Kirsten Smith, 10 Things I Hate About You is nicely structured and populated by some good characters, but could have used a little dialogue polish to elevate the proceedings to a higher comic realm. First-time director Robert Luketic, an Aussie who has made shorts that have attracted prizes and notice on the fest circuit, emphasizes the obvious, more often than not, which similarly has the effect of dumbing down the humor from what it might have been. However, Luketic knew he had a thoroughbred he could count on to bring his film successfully to the finish line, and he's given her free rein. Witherspoon, in turn, has taken full advantage of it. She's wonderful and winning as a young lady who has one life all figured out for herself, then is fully capable of meeting the challenge of succeeding in a new one. At this point, Witherspoon is one of a very small number of screen actors one wants to see in anything she does. Davis as the status-conscious Warner, and Luke Wilson as an older law student who is one of Elle's few allies, both look good, but do little else. But Blair, who appeared with Witherspoon in Cruel Intentions, blossoms nicely from rich bitch to Elle's admiring friend, and Garber and Holland Taylor have some strong moments as law school profs. Deficient in actual Harvard atmosphere, Pick otherwise boasts decent production values, particularly in the area of Elle's all-important wardrobe, which has been tended to with loving attention by costume designer Sophie de Rockoff-Carbonell. The script also introduced the rivalry between Elle and Vivian Kensington in a way that added tension, but also allowed for growth. Vivian isn't just mean for the sake of it. She represents the traditional judgmental Harvard crowd. Their dynamic is key because it forces Elle to fight stereotypes and prove her worth in a place that initially rejects her. This rivalry turns into mutual respect by the end, which is satisfying and adds depth to the story. One cool aspect of the writing is how the script uses humor to develop Elle's character while also moving the plot forward. Take the opening scenes. Elle's life is shown through colorful outfits, pink accessories, and a bright personality, which immediately sets the tone. But at the same time, the script quietly shows that her smarts, like when she explains marketing strategies or aces her admissions interview. The writers cleverly planted these hints early on so that when later surprises everyone in law school, it feels earned, not out of nowhere. The balance between character, plot, and theme is one of the strongest points of the script. The story follows a pretty classic underdog structure, but the writers avoided making it predictable by focusing on Elle's unique perspective. The plot has all the expected beats, the breakup that starts everything, Elle's decision to go to Harvard, the challenges she faces, the courtroom climax, and the final victory. But the themes of self-respect, challenging stereotypes, and the value of being true to yourself weave through all these moments without being shoved in the audience's face. In terms of pacing, the script keeps things moving smoothly. It never lets the story drag, because each scene has a purpose, whether it's making us laugh, building Elle's character, or advancing the plot. The humor also helps break up the more serious moments, so the movie feels light and fun even when tackling issues like sexism and prejudice. Another important part of the writing process was working on the dialogue, which is sharp, memorable, and full of personality. Lines like, "What? Like it's hard?" or "You got into Harvard?" "What? Like it's hard?" became iconic because they capture Elle's confidence and the surprise everyone feels about her. Success. These quotes are so good because they're simple but pack a punch, perfectly matching the movie's tone of playful defiance. Interestingly, the script also takes care to avoid making other characters flat or boring. EMTT Richmond, played by Luke Wilson, is more than just a love interest. He's a supportive friend who helps Elle believe in herself. The writers gave him enough personality to be a believable ally without overshadowing Elle's story. This balance keeps the focus where it should be, the growth of Elle Woods. It's worth mentioning that the script also gently pokes fun at law school culture without being mean-spirited. The writers used their own experiences and research to make Harvard feel real, but also exaggerated enough to serve the comedy. Things like the intimidating professors, the competitive students, and the pressure to conform create a believable world for Elle to challenge. Lastly, the development process included some smart choices about what to leave out. For example, the filmmakers decided not to dive too deep into the darker sides of law school or romance, because that could have made the movie heavier and less fun. Instead, they focused on keeping the tone upbeat and optimistic, which fits Elle's character perfectly. So to wrap it up, the writing and development of Legally Blonde was all about taking a story that could have been a simple comedy and turning it into a smart, funny, and inspiring film. The script carefully balances character development, plot progression, and strong themes of empowerment and self-belief. Thanks to the talented writers and their revisions, Elle Woods became a character who's not just a stereotype, but a real person you want to root for. The story's mix of humor, heart, and a little bit of legal drama made it stand out and helped create a movie that's still loved and quoted more than 20 years later. If you think about it, the writing process behind Legally Blonde reflects the same message as the movie itself. Don't judge something by what it looks like at first. The script started with a simple idea, but grew into something clever and meaningful, just like Elle did. And that's probably why it works so well on screen. What's interesting about Lucetic is how he managed to strike a balance between making the movie feel like a light, stylish comedy and giving it enough heart and emotional weight to connect with audiences. If you watch the film, you can see his influence everywhere, from the vibrant pinks and upbeat soundtrack to the pacing that keeps you engaged without ever feeling rushed or slow. He wasn't interested in making a dry or overly serious legal drama. Instead, he wanted the audience to have fun while still rooting for Elle's journey. One of the key things Lucette did was to embrace the movie's colorful, exaggerated style without letting it turn into a total parody. Think about how Leigh's world is full of bright colors from her wardrobe to the sets, especially early in the movie. Her sorority house, the campus, and even the classrooms have this almost bubblegum pop feel. This isn't just for show. It helps underline Elle's unique personality and her refusal to tone herself down, even when surrounded by the serious, muted tones of Harvard law. The contrast between these worlds visually reinforces the story's themes about standing out and being true to yourself. Luke also used a lot of quick cuts and lively camera movements to keep the energy high, especially during Elle's transformation scenes and her moments of triumph. The pacing feels tight, never dragging, which is important for a comedy like this. You don't want to lose momentum when the story is about a fun, smart woman proving herself. For example, the montage scenes like Elle getting ready for law school or studying late at night are edited in a way that's both funny and inspiring, showing her determination in a lighthearted way. Another thing that stands out is how Lucette handles the courtroom scenes. Instead of making them stiff or boring, he injects a lot of personality and excitement. The final trial, for example, has this great mix of tension and humor which keeps viewers on the edge of their seats, but also smiling. He uses close-ups and reaction shots to highlight Elle's cleverness and confidence, especially in moments where she surprises everyone with her knowledge. The way these scenes are shot makes you feel like you're right there with her, experiencing her wins and challenges firsthand. When it comes to tone, Lucette strikes a careful balance. The movie is mostly light and fun, but it never feels shallow. He makes sure that the emotional beats like Elle's heartbreak when Warner dumps her or her moments of doubt in law school hit hard, enough to make us care without slowing the story down. It's a tricky thing to pull off because too much emotion can drag a comedy, but Lucette handles it with a gentle touch. The film's tone is upbeat and optimistic, which matches Elle's personality perfectly. One directorial choice that really works is how Lucette leans into the film's campy elements. The movie knows it's playful and doesn't try to hide it. Scenes like Elle's sorority house or her bend and snap move have a kind of cheeky exaggeration that adds to the fun without feeling over the top. This self-awareness keeps the movie from taking itself too seriously, which helps audiences relax and enjoy Elle's journey without judgment. In terms of thematic obsessions, Lucette seems drawn to stories about underestimated women proving themselves, which is clear in Legally Blonde. He doesn't just show Elle winning by changing who she is. Instead, he celebrates her using her own style and smarts to succeed. This idea of empowerment through authenticity is a strong theme in his work. You can also see his focus on friendship and support networks. Elle's relationships with EMTT and Pede are warm and real, showing that success isn't just about individual talent, but also about the people who believe in you. Lucette's direction also pays close attention to the actors' performances, making sure Reese Witherspoon shines as Elle. He gives her room to bring her charm and energy, which helps make the character believable and relatable. The chemistry between Witherspoon and Luke Wilson, who plays EMTT, feels natural, and that's no accident. Lucette's careful direction in these interactions helps ground the movie's more exaggerated moments. Visually, Lucette's work creates a kind of playful, polished world that feels both real and a little dreamlike. The bright colors, clean lines, and sharp contrasts all support the story's tone. This style invites the audience in and makes us want to root for Elle because her world is as inviting as her personality. One thing you might not notice right away is how Lotic uses humor to challenge stereotypes without being preachy. The movie pokes fun at the dumb blonde idea while showing Elle's real intelligence and heart. Lotic keeps this tone consistent, which helps the message land without sounding like a lecture. That's a big part of why the film feels so fresh and funny, even after all these years. Looking at Lucette's later work, you can see some of these same traits. Fun female-led stories that mix humor with real emotion. But Legally Blonde stands out as his breakout, where he really found a way to blend style, story, and character in a way that clicked with audiences. So overall, Robert Lucette's direction is a big reason. Legally Blonde works so well. He took a story that could have been a typical comedy and made it something stylish, funny, and heartfelt. His creative vision shaped the tone, pacing, and look of the film in ways that perfectly matched Elle Wood's character and journey. Without his touch, the movie might not have balanced its humor and heart so smoothly or become the classic it is today. If you watch the movie again with this in mind, you'll notice how much the direction adds to the experience, making every scene pop with energy, emotion, and a bit of sparkle. It's like the perfect mix of fun and inspiration, which is exactly what the story needed. Starting with the lead, Reese Witherspoon is simply unforgettable as Elle Woods. At the time, Reese wasn't yet the huge star she is today, but Legally Blonde helped cement her place in Hollywood. What makes her performance stand out is how she avoids turning Elle into a one-note dumb blonde stereotype. Instead, Reese plays her with a mix of charm, intelligence, and genuine warmth. You totally buy that. Elle is someone who's bubbly and fashion-obsessed, but also smart and determined. The way Reese delivers lines like, "What? Like it's hard," is so confident and funny it's impossible not to smile. She captures Elle's spirit perfectly, someone who refuses to be underestimated and proves her worth on her own terms. Reese's performance made Elle a role model for many viewers, showing that you can be yourself and still succeed. Then there's Luke Wilson as EMTT Richmond, Elle's supportive law school friend and eventual love interest. Luke brings a laid-back, easygoing vibe that balances Elle's high energy. His performance feels natural, and he gives EMTT a grounded kindness that makes the character believable and likable. Their chemistry works well because EMTT isn't trying to change Elle. He appreciates her for who she is, which is refreshing in a romantic subplot. Luke's subtle humor and sincerity add depth to their relationship, making it more than just a cliché boyfriend role. The villain, or rather the rival, Vivian Kensington, is played by Selma Blair, and she nails the part of the snobby Harvard student who looks down on Al. Selma brings a sharpness and edge to Vivian that makes her a credible obstacle without turning her into a cartoonish villain. What's cool about her performance is that Vivian isn't just mean for no reason. You can sense her own insecurities and pressure to fit in with the Harvard crowd. This complexity makes the rivalry between Vivian and Elle more interesting and even believable. Their interactions crackle with tension, but also evolve throughout the movie, which is thanks in part to Selma's strong portrayal. The supporting cast also deserves a shout-out because they bring the world around Elle to life in fun and memorable ways. Jennifer Coolidge as Pet, the quirky manicurist who becomes Elle's friend, steals several scenes with her comedic timing and heart. Jennifer's performance adds a sweet, goofy charm that contrasts nicely with the more polished law school setting. Plett's story about finding confidence and standing up for herself is a great subplot, and Jennifer brings it to life with warmth and humor. The professors and other students in the film, though smaller roles, are well cast too. Holland Taylor plays Professor Stromwell, Elle's tough but fair law professor. Taylor's performance is sharp and commanding, and she perfectly captures the intimidating aura of a Harvard professor without making her unsympathetic. This adds a layer of realism to the movie, showing that Elle has to face real-life challenges to prove herself. Other students and classmates, like the pretentious Warner Huntington III, played by Matthew Davis, fit their roles as the privileged, judgmental crowd that Elle has to navigate. What really stands out about the cast as a whole is how believable the relationships feel. The chemistry between Reese Witherspoon and Luke Wilson is warm and easy, making their friendship and later romance feel genuine. The tension between Reese and Selma Blair adds real stakes to Elle's journey. Even the smaller roles like Pleats connect well with Elle's story, giving the movie a sense of community and support. One surprising aspect is how well Reese Witherspoon handles the comedic and dramatic moments with equal skill. Some actors might struggle to balance the two, but Reese moves effortlessly from silly, over-the-top scenes like the famous bend and snap move to heartfelt moments when Elle doubts herself. This range helped make Elle a three-dimensional character, not just a funny caricature. As for awards buzz, Reese Witherspoon's performance in Legally Blonde didn't bring major awards like Oscars, but it did earn her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical. This recognition showed that critics and the industry saw the value in her portrayal. The movie itself was also praised for its uplifting message and strong female lead, which helped boost Reese's career and open doors for more female-driven comedies. The supporting cast, especially Jennifer Coolidge, also received praise for their performances. Jennifer's pet became a fan favorite, and her comedic timing was widely appreciated. Although the film didn't rake in tons of awards, the performances were definitely noticed as a key part of its success. Another interesting note is how some actors brought their own personalities into the roles, making the characters feel even more real. Reese Witherspoon, for example, has talked in interviews about how she connected with Elle's determination and optimism, which probably helped her performance feel so authentic. The casting directors did a great job finding actors who not only fit the roles, but could bring their own energy and life to the characters. In the end, the casting and performances in Legally Blonde are a big reason the movie still works today. The actors made the characters memorable and relatable, and their interactions brought the story's themes of empowerment and self-acceptance to life. It's easy to see why people still quote the movie and love the characters years after its release. If you watch the film again, pay attention to how much the actors' performances shape your experience. Reese Witherspoon's Elle isn't just fun to watch. She's inspiring because of how Reese brings her to life. The supporting cast adds layers and laughs, making the whole movie feel like a group of friends cheering each other on. That's what great casting and performances do. They make a story feel real and keep you rooting for the characters every step of the way. Elle starts off as this stereotypical blonde character, rich, obsessed with looks, and seemingly superficial. She's living the perfect California sorority life, surrounded by friends, fashion, and her boyfriend Warner Huntington III, who represents the traditional, serious, high-status guy Elle thinks she wants. But the movie wastes no time showing that there's more to Elle than meets the eye. Right from the beginning, you can see she's confident and intelligent in her own way, even if others don't take her seriously. Her love for fashion and pink isn't just about vanity. It's part of her identity and how she expresses herself. What drives Leigh at the start is her heartbreak when Warner dumps her to go to Harvard Law School, saying she's not serious enough for him. Instead of letting that break her, Elle makes this bold decision to apply to Harvard herself, not only to win Warner back, but also to prove she's more than just a pretty face. This motivation is really interesting because it begins as a personal challenge to reclaim love, but it quickly grows into a deeper quest for self-respect and achievement. As Elle steps into the new world of Harvard Law, her background as a fashion student in social butterfly clashes with the serious, intimidating atmosphere of law. This sets up the classic underdog story, but with a fresh twist. Elle isn't trying to change who she is to fit in. She's trying to prove that being herself is enough. Her journey reflects the theme of authenticity versus conformity. For example, when she wears bright, stylish clothes to class, some students mock her, but she sticks to her style. It's a way of showing that success doesn't mean losing your identity. Throughout the film, Elle's emotional arc is about growing confidence and realizing her own potential. Early on, she struggles to be taken seriously. She flubs some of her first classes, faces prejudice from classmates and professors, and feels that isolated. But instead of giving up, Elle works harder, studies in her own way, and gradually earns respect. This development is key to the story. It's not just that Elle learns law. She learns how to believe in herself beyond surface appearances. One of the turning points in Elle's growth is her friendship with EMTT, who becomes a mentor and supporter. EMTT sees past Elle's exterior and encourages her to use her strengths, her intelligence, charm, and unique perspective to succeed. This relationship helps Elle realize that intelligence isn't just about books and traditional measures. It's also about creativity, empathy, and determination. When Elle stands up for Pete or uses her knowledge of beauty products in the courtroom, it shows how her unique background is actually an advantage, not a weakness. By the time of the trial, Elle's transformation is complete. She's no longer the girl trying to prove herself to Warner or Harvard. She's become a confident, skilled lawyer who uses her own style and smarts to win. This climax highlights her emotional growth. She's self-assured, independent, and respected on her own terms. The victory isn't just legal, it's personal. She proves to herself and everyone else that being true to who you are is powerful. Symbolically, Elle represents a challenge to stereotypes. She's what some might call an archetype of the underestimated woman or the underdog hero, but with a fresh modern twist. Instead of following the usual path of trying to fit a mold, she shatters the mold entirely. Elle's love of pink fashion and beauty doesn't hold her back. It's part of her strength. She's a reminder that intelligence and style aren't mutually exclusive, and that strength can come in many forms. Elle also fits the hero's journey archetype in a way that's both classic and playful. She leaves her familiar world, the sorority and California lifestyle, faces trials and obstacles. Harvard's academic and social challenges, gets support from allies EMTT, PET, and ultimately succeeds through her unique qualities. But unlike typical heroes who might shed their old selves, Elle embraces hers. This adds an empowering message about self-acceptance. Her journey supports the film's core themes, especially empowerment, identity, and challenging social expectations. Elle's story says it's okay to be yourself, even if the world expects you to change. It also shows how determination and hard work can break down barriers, even in places as intimidating as Harvard Law School, through Elle. The movie encourages viewers to question assumptions about who is serious or smart and to recognize that everyone has unique strengths. Another layer to Elle's character is her emotional vulnerability. She's not just a confident, bubbly person. She has moments of doubt and hurt, like when Warner rejects her or when she feels isolated at Harvard. These moments make her relatable and human. It's her ability to bounce back from these setbacks that makes her inspiring. Showing resilience is part of success. Elle's growth also touches on themes of friendship and support. Her bonds with PET and EMTT highlight the importance of having people who believe in you. These relationships provide emotional support and help her stay grounded. It's not just about individual talent. Community matters. In the end, Elle Woods isn't just a funny, stylish character. She's a symbol of empowerment and breaking free from stereotypes. Her journey from a seemingly shallow sorority girl to a confident law student and lawyer shows that people are more than the labels others give them. She teaches us that staying true to yourself while working hard can lead to success, and that confidence isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out. So, when you watch Legally Blonde, don't just see Elle as a quirky character with great fashion sense. See her as someone who challenges the way we think about intelligence, identity, and strength. Her story is a reminder that we all have the power to rewrite the rules and define success on our own terms. That's what makes her journey so powerful and why the movie still resonates with so many people today. First off, the obvious antagonist at the start is Warner Huntington III, Elle's ex-boyfriend. Warner isn't a villain in the classic sense. He's not evil or cruel, but he's definitely a hurdle for Elle. His motivation is simple. He wants to be with someone who fits his idea of a serious future law partner, which means he looks down on Elle's bubbly personality. and fashion focus. Warner represents the societal pressures and stereotypes that Elle has to overcome. When he breaks up with her, telling her she's not serious enough, he's basically embodying the judgmental voices Elle faces throughout the movie. His actions kick off Elle's quest, but his attitude also reflects a deeper problem: how society often dismisses people based on appearances or shallow assumptions. Warner is a reminder of the kind of narrow thinking Elle needs to prove wrong. His dynamic with Elle is tense and personal, especially early on. But it's interesting that he's not painted as pure bad guy. He's flawed and short-sighted, which makes Elle's triumph over those limitations more satisfying. Then there's Vivian Kensington, played by Selma Blair, who was a much more direct antagonist at Harvard Law School. Vivian starts as the typical mean girl rival, snobby, competitive, and dismissive of Elle. Her motivation seems to be protecting her place in the social and academic hierarchy, as well as holding on to Warner. Vivian looks down on Elle's style and background, and this creates constant friction. But Vivian's character isn't just one-dimensional. As the film progresses, we see that she's also under pressure to conform and succeed in a tough environment. Her rivalry with Elle highlights the clash between traditional elitism and Elle's fresh, confident individuality. The tension between them drives much of the plot, especially during the courtroom scenes where their competition reaches a boiling point. Vivian's transformation later in the movie, when she starts to respect Elle, adds complexity and shows that antagonists don't have to be outright villains. They can be obstacles who also grow. Beyond these two, there's a more systemic antagonist in the form of the Harvard law environment itself. The school represents a rigid, high-pressure world that values tradition, seriousness, and a certain type of intellect, things that initially exclude Elle. The professors, students, and even the setting of Harvard create an atmosphere where Elle's outsider status feels real and challenging. Professor Stromwell, played by Holland Taylor, embodies this system. She's tough, demanding, and expects students to meet high standards. Initially, she's skeptical of Elle, doubting her abilities, but she's fair and willing to recognize real talent, which shows that the system isn't totally closed off, just difficult to navigate. This institutional challenge adds another layer to the antagonism Elle faces, making her success feel earned and meaningful. Now let's talk about the internal antagonist, the doubts and insecurities Elle struggles with. Even though Elle is confident and optimistic, she has moments of self-doubt, especially when faced with harsh criticism or setbacks. This internal conflict makes her journey relatable because she isn't perfect or unshakable. For example, when she first struggles with her law school studies or feels isolated, you can see her vulnerability. These moments add emotional depth and show that the biggest battles sometimes happen inside our own minds. Overcoming these internal challenges is just as important as defeating external ones in the help. Elle's story. Turning to the supporting characters, they play vital roles in both helping Elle grow and enriching their story's themes. The most notable is Pet Ronafonte, played by Jennifer Coolidge. Pet is the quirky, kind-hearted manicurist who becomes one of Elle's closest friends. Pet's storyline about finding confidence, standing up to her ex-husband, and pursuing her own happiness parallels Elle's journey. Jennifer Coolidge's performance brings a perfect mix of humor and heart, and Pet's support is crucial in keeping Elle grounded and motivated. Their friendship highlights themes of female empowerment and solidarity, showing how women can lift each other up in tough situations. Pet's memorable moments, like the hilarious bend and snap scene where she learns Elle's signature move, are fan favorites and add warmth to the film. Another key supporting character is EMTT Richmond, played by Luke Wilson. Emmett is a law student who starts off skeptical of Elle but quickly becomes her mentor and ally. His role is important because he helps bridge the gap between Elle's world and Harvard Law's seriousness. EMTT's motivation seems to be rooted in fairness and kindness. He respects Elle for who she is and encourages her to succeed without losing herself. Their chemistry is believable and adds emotional weight to the story, especially in the way EMTT challenges Elle to grow intellectually and personally. EMTT's presence also introduces a healthy romantic subplot that feels genuine, not forced. There are smaller, supporting roles that also contribute to the story's texture. For instance, Professor Callahan, played by Victor Garber, is a complex figure who initially seems supportive, but later reveals his own flaws. His behavior towards Elle during the trial raises important issues about power dynamics and respect, which the movie addresses head-on. This conflict pushes Elle to stand up for herself in a way that's empowering and memorable. Colohan's character shows that antagonism can come from unexpected places, and dealing with it requires courage. Warner's new girlfriend, Brooke, is another minor but important character. She represents the ideal girl Warner wants. Serious, reserved, and academically focused. Brooke's presence contrasts sharply with Elle's outgoing personality, making Warner's choice feel like a rejection of Elle's true self. Although Brooke isn't developed much beyond this, her role reinforces the theme of societal expectations and the pressure to fit a certain mold. One more interesting supporting character is Margot, played by Ali Larter, and Enid, played by Jessica Caulfield. They are Elle's sorority sisters and represent the stereotypical sorority lifestyle Elle is moving away from. Their roles emphasize Elle's transformation and the distance she puts between her old life and her new ambitions. Yet, their presence also reminds the audience that Elle's roots and personality don't disappear. They just evolve. Overall, the antagonists and supporting characters create a rich environment that challenges and supports Elle in equal measure. The human antagonists, Warner and Vivian, offer personal conflicts and social obstacles. The systemic forces, Harvard Law's strict culture, add broader challenges. Elle's internal doubts provide emotional tension, making her victory feel earned. Meanwhile, the supporting characters offer friendship, guidance, and moments of comic relief that balance the drama. What makes these characters stand out is their complexity. No one is purely good or evil. Motivations are layered and relationships evolve. This adds realism and keeps the story from feeling like a simple good versus evil tale. Instead, it's about navigating a complicated world with courage and authenticity. So, when watching Legally Blonde, notice how these characters push Elle to grow and how their interactions highlight the film's themes of empowerment, identity, and challenging stereotypes. Their roles aren't just background, they're essential to the story's heart and humor. Right at the beginning, we get a bright, fun look at LeWood's life. The movie opens in sunny California, showing us Elle's world full of pink fashion and sunshine. This introduction is really visual and energetic. You instantly get a feel for Elle's personality through what she wears, how she talks, and the bubbly way she moves through her day. We meet her surrounded by friends at her sorority house, practicing her bend and snap move, and just generally enjoying her life. This is a show moment rather than tell, because the movie uses visuals, Elle's confident attitude, and her interactions to paint a picture of who she is instead of someone explaining it outright. You don't have to be told Elle is a stylish, outgoing person. You see it in every scene. The characters around Elle in this first part help build the world she inhabits. We meet Warner Huntington III, her boyfriend, who represents a different world, one that is more serious and traditional. His dialogue and the way he talks about his plans for Harvard Law show right away that he's set on a certain path and expects Elle to fit into that mold. This contrast between Elle's carefree, fashion-focused life and Warner's ambition sets up the core conflict. Warner's casual comment, "You're not serious enough," hits hard because it directly challenges Elle's identity and sparks the entire story. Also, the sorority sisters and Elle's best friend pet are introduced early on. Their conversations and playful banter add humor and warmth, making Elle's world feel welcoming and fun. These characters also provide a baseline for Elle's life before things change. We see her confidence and charm in full swing, which makes what happens next more impactful. Now, the inciting incident The moment that flips everything upside down comes when Warner dumps Elle. This breakup scene is the real turning point. It's brief but powerful. Warner tells Elle he's going to Harvard Law and wants to be with someone more serious. That one. Line cuts deep, not only because it's personal, but because it symbolizes how Elle's life is about to be challenged. Up until this point, everything feels light and easy. But this moment introduces real stakes. Elle's reaction, shock, and determination is immediate. Instead of letting it crush her, she decides to prove Warner wrong by applying to Harvard Law herself. This decision launches the entire plot and turns the movie from a lighthearted comedy into a story about personal growth and breaking stereotypes. What's interesting here is how the film uses a mix of show and tell in exposition. While a lot of Elle's character is shown through her actions and style, the inciting incident relies on clear dialogue to make the stakes obvious. Warner's words carry the weight of judgment and rejection, and that dialogue pushes Elle into her next phase. The film balances this well, making sure the audience understands the motivation behind Elle's choice without dragging it out or being too obvious. The setting also shifts here from sunny California to the imposing, more serious Harvard Law School. This change in location is like a visual metaphor for Elle's challenge. The bright, playful world she's used to contrasts with the cold, formal environment of Harvard, and that contrast is shown through lighting, costume, and camera angles. Harvard? Setting, stone buildings, stiff classrooms, serious students immediately signal that Elle's journey won't be easy. The initial tone of the movie blends comedy with heartfelt moments, which shapes audience expectations. At first, it's clear this isn't just a silly girl power flick. It's a story about proving yourself against the odds. The humor, like Elle's quirky fashion sense and funny interactions with friends, keeps the mood light, but the breakup and Elle's decision add emotional weight. This mix tells viewers to expect a fun movie with meaningful character development. Also, the first act cleverly sets up the theme of appearances versus reality. Elle looks like the typical dumb blonde stereotype, and the movie leans into that expectation, almost inviting us to judge her. But by the end of Act 1, when Elle applies to Harvard, the story is already hinting that there's more beneath the surface. This sets up a satisfying payoff later when Elle proves herself in ways no one expected. What's cool about this opening is how it invites the audience to root for Elle from the start. Even if you don't know the whole story, you can see she's got heart and spunk, and you want to see if she can pull off this huge challenge. It's relatable too. Who hasn't had to prove themselves after being underestimated? Plus, the movie's use of music, bright colors, and upbeat pacing keeps the energy high and makes the introduction memorable. So, in summary, the first act of Legally Blonde does a fantastic job setting up characters, tone, and conflict through strong visuals, sharp dialogue, and a clear, inciting incident. Elle's world is shown in a way that feels real and fun, but the breakup scene adds a punch that raises the stakes. The shift to Harvard Law signals that Elle's journey will be about more than just winning back a boyfriend. It's about breaking barriers and finding herself. The mix of show and tell keeps things engaging and clear, while the initial tone balances humor and heart, setting audience expectations for a feel-good story with real emotional depth. By the time the first act ends, you're fully invested, curious about how Elle will handle Harvard and cheering for her to prove all those doubters wrong. It's a setup that's simple but really effective, and it lays the foundation for all the fun and inspiring moments to come. So Act 2 begins right after Elle arrives at Harvard Law School, and this is where we see the first real taste of the challenges she'll face. Elle's vibrant personality and love of pink clothes immediately clash with the cold, serious atmosphere of the school. Right from the start, people dismiss her because of her looks and bubbly nature. This is where the tension starts to build. The classic fish out of water scenario. Elle has to work twice as hard to be taken seriously, and that struggle is shown through scenes where classmates snub, professors doubt her, and she even struggles with the coursework. It's not just about book smarts. It's about breaking down assumptions and fighting an uphill battle for respect. One of the big obstacles Elle faces is her rivalry with Vivian Kensington. Vivian is everything Elle is not. Reserved, polished, and clearly Harvard's version of serious. Their rivalry creates constant friction and adds a personal layer to Elle's struggles. Vivian is dismissive, even hostile, especially at first, and she tries to undermine Elle's efforts. This competition keeps the stakes high because it's not just about passing classes. It's about proving to someone who actively doubts you that you belong. Their interactions, full of sharp dialogue and subtle digs, bring a lot of energy to the middle of the film. You feel the tension whenever they're in the same room. But while Vivian is a key obstacle, the movie smartly includes subplots that deepen the story. One of the most important is Elle's friendship with Pet, the sweet and quirky manicurist. Pet's subplot about reclaiming her self-confidence and standing up to her ex-husband is a great mirror to Elle's own journey. Their friendship gives Elle emotional support and reminds us that success isn't just about school or career. It's about personal growth and empowerment. This subplot adds warmth and humor to the rising tension and keeps the tone balanced. Another significant subplot involves EMTT Richmond. Emmett starts off as a bit of a skeptic. He doubts Elle's chances and questions if she's serious enough for Harvard. But as he mentors her, the two develop a genuine friendship that eventually hints at something more. EMTT's belief in Elle is a game-changer because it gives her confidence and challenges her to push past her limits. His role shows how positive support can make a huge difference when you're facing tough odds. As the stakes rise, Elle also faces academic challenges. Early in the film, she struggles with reading the dense legal material and understanding the complex cases. This struggle is important because it grounds Elle's journey in reality. She's not some instant genius, but someone willing to learn and grow. The film shows this through scenes where Elle studies late, asks for help, and even fails a practice test. These moments make her eventual success believable and satisfying. The audience can relate to the hard work and frustration that come with trying to fit into a new world. Now let's talk about the key decisions Elle makes in Act 2 and their consequences. The biggest is her choice to stay at Harvard and prove herself rather than just quitting after Warner dumps her. This decision defines the movie and fuels everything else. Elle commits to becoming a law student, not to win Warner back, but to prove her own worth. It's a turning point that shifts her motivation from reaction to ambition. This shift is subtle but powerful and shows real character growth. Another important decision is when Elle chooses to help Pet with her dog's custody battle. This might seem like a side story, but it actually reinforces the theme of fighting for what you believe in and standing up against unfairness. Elle's dedication to helping Pet shows her growing confidence and ability to apply what she's learning in law school to real life problems. Plus, the bend and snap move she teaches Pet becomes a symbol of empowerment. Fun but effective, the midpoint of the movie is a big turning point that changes the story's direction. Up until now, Elle has been mostly focused on fitting in and proving herself academically. But at the midpoint, she takes on a major case, the defense of Brooke Wyndham, accused of murder. This is huge because it puts Elle in the spotlight and raises the stakes dramatically. It's not just about exams anymore. It's about real-world consequences and testing everything she's learned. The case also forces Elle to step up her game and challenges her legal skills, pushing her character growth further. This case also exposes Elle to new conflicts, including a disturbing moment where Professor Callahan makes an inappropriate advance toward her. This event is significant because it reveals the darker side of the serious legal world Elle's entered. It also motivates Elle to stand up for herself in a powerful way later in the film. This subplot adds depth and shows that the obstacles Elle faces aren't just academic or social, they can be ethical and personal too. Another midpoint twist is the growing respect from Vivian and some classmates. While Vivian starts as Elle's enemy, by this point you see cracks in her attitude. Elle's hard work and genuine personality begin to win people over, which shifts the social dynamics at Harvard. This development isn't a sudden change, but a gradual realization that Elle is more than a stereotype. The audience senses this change and gets even more invested in her success. Throughout Act 2, the pacing balances tension with lighter moments, keeping the movie engaging. The rising conflicts are serious, but often softened with humor. Whether it's Elle's quirky study methods, Petty's antics, or the funny courtroom scenes, this balance prevents the story from getting too heavy and keeps the feel-good vibe intact. In terms of narrative structure, Act 2 is where character development and plot intertwine tightly. Elle's personal growth, gaining confidence, standing up to bullies, building friendships, drives the story forward. Each obstacle she overcomes builds momentum toward the climax. The subplots with Petty, EMTT, and the Brooke Wyndham case add layers that make the movie richer and more relatable. By the end of Act 2, Elle is no longer just the bubbly blonde trying to fit in. She's a serious law student with real skills and determination. Stakes have increased from personal heartbreak to professional success and ethical integrity. This transformation is key because it makes the upcoming climax meaningful. The audience is rooting for Elle, not just because she's charming, but because she's earned her place through hard work and heart. So to sum it up, Act 2 of Legally Blonde raises the tension through social rejection, academic challenges, and ethical conflicts. The subplots add emotional depth and humor, balancing the serious moments. Elle's decisions shape her growth and set up the big courtroom showdown. The midpoint twist, taking on the murder case, raises the stakes and shifts the story from a personal journey to a high-pressure legal drama. Throughout, the movie keeps a fun tone while exploring important themes like empowerment, justice, and breaking stereotypes. All right, let's jump into Act 3 of Legally Blonde, the climax and resolution, because this is where everything Elle's been working toward comes together in a big way. This part is packed with emotional highs, smart storytelling, and satisfying payoffs that really tie up the themes and character arcs the movie has built. Plus, it gives us that feel-good ending we were rooting for from the start. The climax mainly takes place in the courtroom during the trial of Brooke Wyndham, the fitness guru accused of murdering her husband. Up until this point, Elle's growth has been about proving herself in a new environment, facing down stereotypes, and learning what it means to stand up for herself and others. Now she has to put all that to the test. This trial scene is where the movie flips from a light comedy to a tense drama, but it keeps enough humor and heart to stay true to its tone. What makes this climax so effective is how it combines emotional and narrative payoff. Emotionally, we've seen Elle face rejection, ridicule, and serious challenges, but here she finally proves she belongs at Harvard Law, not just by passing tests, but by using her unique perspective to solve the case. When Elle realizes the key to the case is that Brooke's perfect husband was actually a spy, it's a clever twist that shows Elle's intelligence and her ability to think outside the box. The moment she exposes the real murderer is satisfying because it's the result of everything she's learned, both the legal skills and her belief in herself. Narratively, the courtroom showdown resolves the central conflict, the question of whether Elle is just a pretty face or a serious legal mind. Her bold cross-examination and quick-thinking win over the judge and jury. And in a classic underdog wins moment, Brooke is acquitted. This resolution feels earned and realistic within the movie's world because Elle's earlier struggles and preparation make it believable that she can pull this off. It's not some random lucky break. It's her hard work paying off. There's also a strong sense of justice served. Doesn't just win for herself. She fights for an innocent woman and exposes the truth, reinforcing the movie's themes about fairness, integrity, and challenging appearances. This courtroom victory symbolizes Elle's full transformation from someone underestimated to someone respected. The climax also addresses the personal conflicts, especially between Elle and Vivian. Vivian starts off as Elle's main antagonist, but by the end we see a shift in their relationship. Vivian admits that Elle earned her respect, which wraps up their rivalry in a realistic and mature way. This resolution is satisfying because it shows growth on both sides. Vivian lets go of her prejudice, and Elle gains the acceptance she deserved. It's a nice way to show that breaking stereotypes isn't just about winning, but also changing minds. Another key moment is Elle's standing up to Professor Callahan after he makes an inappropriate move toward her. This scene is powerful because it shows Elle's inner strength and confidence. Earlier in the movie, she might have been unsure about how to handle such situations, but now she confronts Callahan head-on, refusing to be intimidated. This moment is not just a personal victory, but ties into the larger theme of women standing up for themselves in male-dominated spaces. Now let's talk about the resolution beyond the courtroom. After the trial, Elle's life has changed dramatically. Warner tries to come back, but this time Elle's the one in control. She rejects him, showing how much she's grown. This reversal of roles is satisfying because it puts Elle's independence front and center. She's no longer defined by her relationship with Warner or anyone else. She's her own person. And the movie doesn't just end with a romantic payoff. It ends with personal empowerment. Elle's graduation from Harvard and her speech to the class is the perfect way to close the story. It's a celebration of everything she's achieved and a message about breaking barriers and believing in yourself. The speech feels heartfelt and inspiring without being cheesy, which keeps it in line with the movie's overall tone. Fun, but meaningful. It reminds us why we cared about Elle's journey in the first place. When you look at the character transformations, the changes are clear and well-earned. Elle goes from a bubbly but somewhat shallow college girl to a confident, intelligent woman who can hold her own in a tough environment. She keeps her personality but learns to use it as a strength rather than a weakness. Vivian, on the other hand, moves from antagonist to reluctant ally, showing that people can change their minds when confronted with evidence and kindness. Warner's failure to see Elle's worth until it's too late wraps up the theme about how people often judge others unfairly. His character doesn't get a redemption arc, and that's important. It keeps the story honest. Elle moves forward without needing his approval, which feels like the right message. The ending fits perfectly with the film's tone and themes. Legally Blonde started as a lighthearted comedy, and it ends on a hopeful, upbeat note. The film never gets too heavy, even when dealing with serious issues like sexism and harassment, which makes the resolution feel natural and satisfying. It's a story about believing in yourself, breaking stereotypes, and standing up for what's right, and the final scenes drive that home clearly. Overall, the climax and resolution of Legally Blonde provide a strong emotional and narrative payoff. Elle's journey is complete. The conflicts are resolved in ways that feel earned, and the themes about empowerment and challenging expectations come through loud and clear. The film leaves you feeling good, inspired, and maybe even ready to cheer for the underdog in your own life. All right, let's dig into the core themes and messages of Legally Blonde. This movie might look like a light, fun comedy on the surface, but if you watch closely, it's packed with some pretty important ideas about identity, empowerment, and challenging the way society judges people. These themes aren't just slapped on, they're woven into the story, characters, and even the way the movie looks and feels. So let's break down the big ideas and see how the movie uses them to send a strong, positive message. One of the biggest themes in Legally Blonde is definitely identity and self-acceptance. Elle Wood starts off as this super bubbly, fashion-loving girl who loves pink and gets judged for being just a blonde. Society, and especially the world at Harvard Law, assumes she's shallow and not serious. But the film shows that Ella's personality and interests aren't weaknesses. They're part of who she is. The movie challenges the idea that you have to fit into a serious, boring mold to be smart or successful. Remember when Elle confidently says, "Whoever said orange was the new pink was seriously disturbed." It's a funny line, but it also tells us she's not going to change who she is to fit in. That's a huge part of the message. You don't need to lose yourself to succeed. Visually, the movie uses color to support this theme. Elle's wardrobe is bright and colorful, especially her iconic pink outfits, even when she's at Harvard surrounded by students in dull suits. This contrast isn't just for laughs. It symbolizes how Elle's true self stands out in a world that expects conformity. When Elle walks into the courtroom in a stylish pink dress, it's not just fashion. It's a statement that you can be both feminine and tough, both caring about your appearance and your work. The movie visually pushes back against the stereotype that femininity and intelligence can't go together. Closely linked to identity is the theme of empowerment, especially female empowerment. Elle's whole journey is about proving that women can be smart, strong, and capable without sacrificing their individuality. It's clear in how she handles obstacles, like when she's ignored or belittled at Harvard, but keeps pushing forward. The courtroom scenes where she uses her legal knowledge to win the case are the ultimate moments of empowerment. It's her moment to show that brains and heart can win. Another way the film expresses this theme is through Elle's support system, characters like Pet and EMTT. Pet's subplot about reclaiming her life and confidence shows that empowerment isn't just about academic or career success, but also about standing up for yourself in everyday life. When Elle teaches Pet the bend and snap, it's a fun moment, but it's also symbolic, showing how women can use their confidence and personality to change their lives. The movie doesn't just celebrate Elle's success, but encourages all women to find their own strength. The theme of breaking stereotypes runs throughout the entire film. The story constantly challenges the idea that people should be judged by their looks or social status. Warner and Vivian represent the traditional, closed-minded attitude that Elle fights against. Warner dumps Elle because he assumes she's not serious. Vivian tries to exclude Elle because she thinks Elle doesn't belong. But Elle proves everyone wrong by working hard, being kind, and staying true to herself. This is especially powerful because it shows that stereotypes hurt not just the people they're about, but also the people who believe them. The movie also explores the idea of resilience and determination. Elle faces a lot of rejection. She's mocked, ignored, and even sexually harassed by Professor Callahan. But she doesn't give up or let these challenges break her spirit. Instead, she finds ways to fight back and keep moving forward. Her growth is a great example of how resilience is key to overcoming obstacles, whether they're personal or professional. On a more subtle level, the film touches on themes of friendship and support. Elle's relationship with Pet and EMTT shows how having people who believe in you makes a huge difference. Pet's encouragement helps Elle stay grounded, while EMTT's mentorship helps her grow intellectually and emotionally. These relationships highlight the idea that success isn't just about individual effort, it's also about connection and teamwork. The movie also plays with the theme of appearances versus reality. Many characters judge Elle based on how she looks, but she constantly surprises them by being smart, capable, and kind. This theme is especially clear in the courtroom, where Elle's knowledge of fashion and beauty becomes a tool to catch the real criminal. The film uses this to show that people are often more complex than they seem, and judging someone by their cover is a mistake. Finally, Legally Blonde carries a message about the importance of education and personal growth. Elle's journey through Harvard isn't just about earning a degree. It's about learning who she is and what she's capable of. The movie shows that education can empower people to make a difference, not just in their own lives, but in others' lives too, like when Elle helps Pete or wins the trial for Brooke Wyndham. The film celebrates learning as a tool for change. So what's the moral stance here? Legally Blonde is basically saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Be yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. Work hard, stay true to your values, and don't be afraid to stand up for what's right. The movie also pushes back against stereotypes, especially those about women and intelligence. It's an encouraging message that success and happiness come from embracing who you are, not pretending to be someone else. In summary, the core themes of Legally Blonde revolve around identity, empowerment, breaking stereotypes, resilience, and the power of education. These ideas are expressed through Elle's character, the story's conflicts, the relationships she builds, and even the movie's visual style. The film manages to balance fun and humor with meaningful messages, making it more than just a comedy. It's a feel-good story about believing in yourself and challenging the world's expectations. It's no wonder the movie has remained popular and inspiring for so many years. All right, let's dive into the social, political, and philosophical layers in Legally Blonde. At first glance, it might just seem like a lighthearted comedy about a blonde girl proving herself at Harvard Law. But beneath that bubbly surface, the movie actually touches on some pretty important real-world issues, especially around gender, inequality, and power dynamics. It doesn't hit you over the head with heavy messages, which makes it more effective. But if you look closely, you'll see it saying quite a bit about society. One of the strongest social commentaries in the film centers on sexism and how women are treated, especially in professional and academic settings. Wood's entire journey exposes how often women get underestimated or pigeonholed just because of their appearance or personality. In the movie, people assume Elle is dumb or frivolous because she's blonde and loves fashion, which reflects a broader real-world problem, judging women based on stereotypes instead of their actual abilities. The Harvard Law environment in the film highlights this issue. Elle faces skepticism, snide remarks, and outright dismissal from professors and classmates alike. For example, Professor Callahan, who is supposed to be a respected figure, crosses professional boundaries and behaves inappropriately toward Elle, showing an abuse of power that's sadly familiar in many workplaces. The movie doesn't shy away from addressing this kind of harassment, even if it keeps things fairly light, which is kind of impressive given the genre. What's interesting is how Legally Blonde critiques this sexism without feeling preachy. It doesn't make Elle a victim. Instead, it shows her responding to these challenges with strength and wit. When Elle stands up to Callahan toward the end, it's a powerful moment that highlights the importance of women asserting themselves and not tolerating bad behavior. This scene resonates beyond the movie because it echoes real-world conversations about workplace harassment, and the importance of speaking out. The film also touches on the theme of inequality, particularly social and educational inequality. Elle comes from a wealthy, privileged background, and her initial acceptance to Harvard is partly because of her social status and connections. But the movie cleverly shows that privilege doesn't guarantee success or respect. Elle has to work hard to prove herself, and at the same time, she connects with people like Pette who face different struggles. Plett's storyline, working a low-paying job, dealing with personal challenges, adds depth to the film's look at class differences. It shows that while Elle might have advantages, she also uses her resources and confidence to help others, which is a subtle nod to social responsibility. This balance between privilege and personal effort reflects a real debate in society about what it takes to succeed. Elle's story suggests that privilege can open doors, but it's personal qualities, determination, kindness, intelligence that really matter. That's a pretty thoughtful critique of meritocracy and social status, especially in an elite setting like Harvard. In terms of political commentary, the movie isn't overtly political, but it does touch on power structures, especially through the character of Warner and the Harvard environment. Warner represents the traditional privileged male who feels entitled to make decisions for others, including Elle. His rejection of Elle at the beginning is partly because she doesn't fit the mold he expects, which highlights how entrenched gender roles can limit people. The way Vivian initially excludes Elle also shows how gatekeeping happens within marginalized groups. Sometimes people uphold unfair standards even when they're the ones being judged by the same system. These dynamics mirror real issues of power, privilege, and exclusion in politics and society. There's also a bit of philosophical commentary about identity and authenticity. Elle's journey asks a simple but deep question. Who are you? Really, when you strip away other people's opinions. The movie suggests that true success comes from being yourself and not letting society's labels define you. This idea ties into broader philosophical discussions about individuality and self-worth. Elle's refusal to abandon what makes her unique, her style, optimism, and kindness, challenges the idea that you have to sacrifice your identity to fit into powerful institutions. Now, does the movie ever cross into preachiness? Not really. That's one of the reasons it works so well. Instead of lecturing the audience, it tells a story that naturally brings these issues to light. The characters and plot show the problems without spelling everything out. The humor and light tone keep the movie approachable, making the messages feel inspiring rather than heavy-handed. It's kind of like having an important conversation with a friend, not a lecture in a classroom. Audience reactions to these social and political themes have been mostly positive. People appreciate that Legally Blonde is more than just a goofy comedy. It's become a bit of a feminist classic because it highlights women's struggles in a way that's relatable and empowering. The fact that Leigh Woods is portrayed as smart, funny, and ambitious while still embracing her femininity has resonated with viewers who felt pressured to hide parts of themselves to succeed. On the flip side, some critics have pointed out that the movie doesn't dig deeply into systemic issues like sexism or class inequality. It focuses more on individual triumphs than changing the system. But considering the genre and target audience, the film strikes a good balance between fun entertainment and meaningful commentary. One more thing to note is how the movie encourages activism in subtle ways. Elle's actions, like standing up for Petty's rights or challenging Professor Callahan, aren't loud protests but quiet acts of courage. It suggests that change often happens through personal bravery and kindness, not just big public movements. This approach makes activism feel accessible and realistic, especially for younger viewers. In summary, Legally Blonde offers thoughtful commentary on sexism, inequality, power dynamics, and identity. Without becoming preachy or heavy, it reflects real-world issues in a way that's both entertaining and meaningful, encouraging viewers to question stereotypes and stand up for themselves and others. The film's light tone makes these themes approachable, which has helped it connect with audiences and become a cultural touchstone for that empowerment. It's a reminder that even a fun comedy can say something important about the world we live in. All right, let's talk about the visual style and cinematography of Legally Blonde. This movie doesn't just tell its story through dialogue and plot. It really uses how it looks and feels on screen to support the whole vibe and themes. The filmmakers made some clever choices with camera work, lighting, colors, and scene setups that make you feel Elle's journey in a way words alone couldn't do. Plus, the visuals help keep the tone light and fun while still showing the deeper messages about identity, confidence, and breaking stereotypes. First off, the camera work and framing in Legally Blonde are pretty straightforward, but effective. The film mostly sticks to clean, well-lit shots that keep the focus on the characters, especially Elle. The framing often places Elle in the center of the frame, visually reinforcing that she's the star and that the story revolves around her. For example, early scenes at UCLA show Elle surrounded by her friends and family in wide, bright shots that emphasize her bubbly personality and comfortable world. But once Elle arrives at Harvard, the shots become tighter and more structured, reflecting how she's stepping into a more serious, rigid environment. The contrast between those spaces is visually clear through how the camera frames things. Movement-wise, the film uses a mix of smooth tracking shots and quick cuts, especially in scenes where Elle is adjusting to Harvard life. When she first walks into the law school, the camera follows her with a gentle dolly shot, almost like it's inviting us to see the world from her perspective. Her surprise, curiosity, and excitement. Later during courtroom scenes, the camera angles get sharper and more focused, highlighting tension and stakes. The way the camera zooms in on Ella's face during her big moments, like when she presents evidence or stands up to Callahan, helps us feel the emotional weight she's carrying. Angles in the movie are also interesting because they sometimes play with power dynamics. When Elle is underestimated, she's often shot from a slightly low angle, which makes her seem smaller or less important, compared to other characters who are framed from above or at eye level. But as Elle grows in confidence and skill, the shots shift. For example, the famous bend and snap scene is filmed with playful angles and close-ups that celebrate Elle's personality and newfound power in a fun way. This shift in angles subtly tracks her transformation from underdog to someone who controls her own narrative. Lighting and color palette are probably the most noticeable parts of the movie's visual style. Elle's world is bright, colorful, and warm. Pink is everywhere, not just in her clothes, but also in the lighting and set decoration, especially in scenes at her house or with her friends. This creates a feeling of warmth and positivity, which matches Elle's optimistic attitude. When she's at Harvard, the lighting changes to cooler, bluer tones, and the sets use more neutral colors like gray, black, and white. This visual contrast shows how different and challenging Harvard is compared to Elle's usual life. It also visually separates the pink world loves from the serious world she's trying to conquer. One clever visual technique the filmmakers use is how Elle's pink outfits stand out against the more muted backgrounds. In a sea of dark suits and serious faces, Elle's bright dresses immediately draw your eye. This not only reinforces her unique personality, but also challenges the idea that professionalism means dullness or conformity. The visuals say loud and clear that Elle doesn't have to change who she is to be taken seriously. A standout sequence visually is the courtroom scene during the trial. Here, the lighting is bright but controlled, focusing on the intense moments when Elle presents her evidence. The cinematography here shifts from the earlier playful style to a more dramatic, focused approach. Close-ups of Ella's face show her determination and intelligence, while wide shots show the reactions of the courtroom, emphasizing the stakes. The camera work in this scene builds tension, but still keeps Elle's character front and center, which is key to the story's payoff. Another visually memorable scene is the bend and snap moment at the beauty salon. The way it's shot using quick cuts, close-ups on Elle and Pet, and lively camera movement creates a fun, energetic vibe. The lighting is warm and inviting, and the color palette here is full of pastels and pinks matching Elle's style perfectly. This sequence visually reinforces the film's message that femininity and strength can coexist, all wrapped in humor and charm. The film also uses visual storytelling to show Elle's emotional journey. For instance, when she feels out of place at Harvard or faces rejection, the shots tend to be wider and more isolating, sometimes showing Elle alone in a big empty room. These moments visually express her feelings of loneliness and self-doubt. But as she gains confidence, the shots become tighter, warmer, and more intimate, symbolizing her growing sense of belonging and self-assurance. In terms of set design, the movie contrasts the bubbly, girly aesthetic of Elle's world with the cold, intimidating environment of Harvard Law. Elle's home scenes have lots of soft textures, floral patterns, and pastel colors, creating a cozy, safe space. Harvard's classrooms and hallways, on the other hand, are dominated by hard surfaces, straight lines, and neutral colors, emphasizing the serious challenge Elle faces. This contrast not only supports the story, but visually communicates the clash between Elle's world and the one she's trying to conquer. All these visual choices, camera angles, lighting, color, set design work together to support the movie's themes. Colors and playful camera work visually push back against the idea that success means fitting into a dull, serious mold. The more serious and structured shots at Harvard highlight the challenges she faces, making her eventual triumph feel even more rewarding. The visuals aren't just pretty. They tell a story about individuality, confidence, and breaking stereotypes. In the end, Legally Blonde uses its visual style to make the audience feel Elle's personality and journey in a way that's immediate and fun. It keeps the mood light and optimistic, but never lets the visuals undercut the seriousness of Elle's challenges. Instead, the look of the way. Film becomes a celebration of who Elle is, bright, confident, smart, and unapologetically herself. This balance between playful and serious makes the movie memorable and gives it a visual identity that sticks with you. So next time you watch it, pay attention to how the camera follows Elle, how the pink pops out against the gray halls, and how those courtroom shots build tension. The visuals are working hard to make sure you don't just hear Elle's story, you feel it. All right, let's break down the sound design and musical score of Legally Blonde. Sound might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think of this film. It's mostly known for its bright colors, funny lines, and Elle's unforgettable attitude. But honestly, the audio plays a huge role in shaping how we experience the story. From the music that sets the mood to the way sound effects bring scenes to life, everything works together to make the movie feel vibrant, energetic, and emotionally engaging. First off, the musical score. The composer behind the film is Rolf Kent, who's known for scoring several romantic comedies and lighthearted films. His work here fits perfectly with Legally Blonde's playful and optimistic tone. The score blends upbeat, catchy melodies with subtle emotional themes, helping guide the audience through Elle's journey without ever feeling overwhelming or distracting. The music feels light and fun, but also has moments of sincerity that match the film's more serious beats, like when Elle faces rejection or steps up in court. One cool thing about the score is how it uses recurring motifs, little musical ideas that pop up throughout the film to represent Elle's character or specific moods. For example, there's a bright, bouncy piano theme that plays during Elle's lighter, more confident moments. It's simple but effective, instantly putting you in a good mood and reminding you of Elle's upbeat personality. Then, during moments of doubt or tension, the music shifts to slower, softer arrangements, often with strings or gentle synths to underscore her vulnerability. This contrast helps the audience feel the emotional highs and lows without the need for extra dialogue. Besides the score, Legally Blonde is packed with a soundtrack full of pop songs from the early 2000s, which adds another layer to the sound experience. Songs like Perfect Day by Hoku and Watch Me Shine by Joanna Pasiti play during key scenes and help set the era's youthful feel-good vibe. These tracks aren't just background noise. They often reflect Elle's mood or the tone of a scene. For example, when Elle is gearing up for law school or celebrating a win, the music feels energetic and empowering, almost like a soundtrack to her personal victory. Moving on to sound effects. These are subtle but important in making the world of the film feel real and immersive. Think about scenes like the bustling Harvard campus, the chatter in classrooms, or even the quiet moments in Elle's dorm room. The background noises add depth so you don't just see the environment but actually feel like you're there. Footsteps echo in hallways, papers shuffle in the courtroom, and even the click of high heels becomes noticeable, emphasizing Elle's unique presence in a serious male-dominated environment. One particularly memorable sound design moment is during the bend and snap scene. The filmmakers use quick sound effects that match Elle and Plett's energetic movements. The snapping fingers, the swoosh of hair flipping, even the faint background chatter in the salon. These little sounds build a lively, playful atmosphere that matches the scene's humor and lightheartedness perfectly. It's a great example of how sound effects can elevate a moment, making it more immersive and fun without any extra dialogue. The film also uses silence thoughtfully, which might surprise you given its upbeat nature. Silence often shows up during moments of emotional weight or tension. For example, when Elle feels rejected or isolated, the background noise drops away and the camera lingers on her face with very little sound. This absence of noise lets you focus entirely on her emotions and creates a sense of vulnerability. It's a smart way to contrast the louder, more playful parts of the movie and highlight Elle's internal struggles without a word being spoken. Now, when it comes to balancing dialogue, music, and ambient sound, Legally Blonde nails it. The dialogue is always clear and upfront, which is important because a lot of the movie's humor and heart comes from what the characters say. But the music and sound effects never overpower the talking. They support it, adding emotional layers and helping with pacing. For instance, during fast-paced scenes like Elle rushing through campus or the trial sequences, the music drives the energy without making it hard to hear important lines. In quieter, more personal scenes, the sound softens to let the characters' feelings take center stage. A standout example of this balance is the courtroom climax. The tension is high and the dialogue carries the weight of the story, but the music gently underscores Elle's determination and intelligence. Sound effects like the rustle of papers, the tapping of shoes, and the murmurs from the audience add realism and heighten the stakes. It's a perfect blend that keeps viewers hooked emotionally and intellectually. There are also a few iconic musical moments that fans always remember. The use of Barbie Girl during Elle's initial breakup scene is hilarious and totally nails the mood of heartbreak mixed with Elle's quirky personality. It's a playful nod to her blonde image, but also shows she's more complex than the stereotype. Plus, the bend and snap song and sounds are instantly recognizable and often quoted or referenced in pop culture, showing how the sound design has become part of the movie's lasting charm. In terms of technical skill, the sound mixing and editing are smooth with seamless transitions between scenes and consistent volume levels. You don't get sudden jumps in sound that pull you out of the experience. Everything feels polished and professional, which is important for keeping the audience engaged without distraction. To sum it up, the sound design and musical score in Legally Blonde are a big part of what makes the movie so enjoyable and emotionally effective. The composer Rolf Kent's lighthearted but sincere score perfectly captures Elle's personality and journey. The pop soundtrack adds fun, era-specific energy. Sound effects fill the world with life and detail, from high heels clicking to courtroom murmurs. Thoughtful use of silence adds emotional depth, and the balance between dialogue, music, and ambient noise is spot on, letting the story shine through while supporting the mood and tone. All these elements combined help the movie feel lively, funny, and heartfelt, just like Elle herself. So next time you watch Legally Blonde, pay attention not just to what's being said or shown, but also to how the sound shapes your experience. And some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.